right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to start the conversations, the dialogues, and moving the agenda forward. Allow me to bring to the stage an individual who believes deeply in the power of information, data, networking, collaboration, and leading-edge ICT to transform government operations, connect citizens, strengthen institutions, and improve the quality of life that we should definitely enjoy. Here to share his words or his thoughts on Africa's vision in the AI digital era. Ladies and gentlemen, please warmly welcome Augustine Chiew.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Honorable Minister, senior government officials, business leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Augustine. I hail from the island nation of Singapore, very small country, about 6 million. And I've been with Huawei for about almost 10 years now. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Public Services. And what's interesting is that over the past 3 weeks, I have actually been to about 7 countries. I started the journey from Singapore. I went to Botswana. From Botswana, I went to Hong Kong. From Hong Kong, I then went over to Paris, France. And then from France, I went back to Shenzhen, China. And then from there, I traveled to Zambia. And yesterday night, I then finally arrived at Accra. So it's quite a few countries over the past few weeks. And one thing struck me when I was walking along the streets after work, which is how young and vibrant Africa is. When I was in Singapore, when I was in Hong Kong, in many ways China, and also definitely France, the population is getting old. You see a lot of old people on the streets. The pace and everything, but Africa is different. And this is why I feel excited to be here, to be able to share with you Huawei's vision about Africa in the digital and the AI era. What I want to do over the next perhaps 15-20 minutes or so is to outline some global transformation trends and insights. And when we talk about unlocking a country's potential, unlocking a continent's potential, I think China, in many ways, is a good reference. Because over the past 30, 40 years, I think they have achieved many things beyond what all of us feel that they would achieve. And I then want to end off by bringing the conversation, the discussion, back to Africa itself. So one of the things that we do understand is that technology will always reshape economic models. So I'm from Huawei, a global provider of leading infrastructure, devices, and solutions. So it's very natural for me to focus the conversation around technology and around digital infrastructure. So if you see on the slide itself, you see the evolution from an agricultural economy to an industrial economy, and what's going to power countries and continents ahead is the digital economy. Make no mistake about that. There is a shift. If we continue to just invest and look at things from a traditional industrial economy, what's going to happen is that you're going to be left behind again. So it's important to then look at the digital economy, look at the technologies, look at the solutions it's bringing, and ask ourselves, how can Africa, and in particular, how can Ghana be part of that race? So what you're seeing right now is that the countries are all pivoting towards digital economy, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in China, in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, everybody is doing that. And the key part of the digital strategy is you need to look at it from 5 areas. Your sovereignty, how do I protect my data? I need to look at my infrastructure. This day, the conversation is no longer about having a data center. That's fundamental, that's basic. The conversation revolves around Are you going to look at AI? Are you AI ready? Are you going to be able to use AI to deliver better, faster, more efficient, and greater quality of life to your people? It's about having the policy support to support the digital strategy. Green energy remains a key issue. And ultimately, am I able to make sure I bring my people along? Countries who have succeeded in this race, primarily they are able to develop a digital government, a digital economy, and more important, a digital society. Because at the end of it all, people is at the heart of things. When you do anything digital, without the people, you're not going to be able to succeed. What is also interesting is the nexus between infrastructure investment and economic growth. I think CEO Ishmael gave a great speech. I tend to agree with him that we may not necessarily want to look at metrics that are designed not specifically for the country, but in the purposes and in the context of doing simple comparisons, I'm still using that. What we do see on this screen is that if your connectivity improves, what's going to happen is that your GDP per capital is going to increase. It is a fact. Okay? So if your fixed broadband, your mobile broadband, and if you have 5G, all of this improves, what you're going to see is significant growth in GDP per capita. Because the connectivity itself is going to spur business growth. It's going to attract investment itself. On the other side of the slide, what you're also seeing is that in many ways, computing power is productivity. We have to accept that in this current era right now, whoever is able to capitalize on technology, do things faster, do things quicker, do things smarter, you're absolutely going to race ahead. But what is also important is we need to realize that it cannot exist in silos. So what we have seen is that connectivity is a key catalyst to transform computing power and AI models. We say that because if you have computing power, if, for example, you start investing in computing power, whether it's Ghana, whether it's Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, or any country in the African continent, you start investing in connectivity. But then you do not try to use this connectivity and connect it with the rest of the world, with data. What's going to happen is you're going to be just an information island, a silo by itself. You cannot harness value from it, okay? You need to connect the greater computing power with the data to produce the greatest value. This is an image actually generated by AI, but I find it to be extremely meaningful. And that is why for every country around the world, there is a race to make sure 5G is deployed very quickly. The key difference about 5G is it can help to transfer massive amount of data. It reduces the latency that is needed to do a lot of industrial transformation. For example, if you're going to remotely control devices, machines, vehicles, in mining, in transportation, in port operations, you need 5G. Because the latency, the ability to allow the controller to move left, move right, and allow the devices to follow his movement instantaneously, it's 5G. So it's very important that as we think about the context, as we think about unlocking a country's potential, as we think about upgrading the digital infrastructure, we have to think about the deployment of 5G, okay? This slide itself, I think, speaks 1,000 words. If you look at it, all the major economies have launched strategies, have said how much they want to do. The US have announced a $500 billion investment, even though at the moment, based on our estimation, only about 10% has been expended. That's about 50 billion US dollars. China has a national AI strategy. We know they are funding AI chipset R&D support. Again, almost to the amount of about US $50 billion. The European economy, the EU, has also developed an Invest AI program in 2025. They have pledged 200 billion euros, but at the moment they have only expended about 8 to 10%. So what you are seeing is nations realize that if I want to be competitive, if I want to do well, I need to support the development of AI. I need to build AI capabilities within my country to help the business accelerate, transform, to help the government accelerate and transform. And if we move beyond the big economy, you realize that individual countries are all jumping onto the wagon. Saudi Arabia, Canada, India, and of course my small little country, Singapore, all of us have also announced that. So I think it's very important to take cognizance of the fact that artificial intelligence that we're talking right now is no longer a myth, it's no longer a technology, it's no longer something that you wait for. The era is here. And whoever that is going to capitalize on this is going to race forward. So with this slide itself, what we are showing is how it's transforming and empowering industries. Right now, governments around the world are using artificial intelligence to analyze the data, to help understand citizen sentiments. What they're using is they're using AI to develop chatbots. I used to remember the frustrations when sometimes, because we're too busy, when I was too busy, I can only access and do some of my government-related transactions only in the evenings and over weekends. And unfortunately, when I meet with an issue, with a challenge, I'm not able to speak to any government servant because they also need work-life balance, right? They need to be with their kids, they need to be with their children, their wives, the parents, etc. They can't be working 24/7 all day. But in an era where your government services, where the chatbot reigns supreme, you can have access, you can have people, you can have the robot answering your query 24/7. That itself is productivity. I have stayed in China I'm based in Singapore and China. I've lived in both countries on and off for the past 8 years. I've seen firsthand how things have changed. I've seen drones delivering my medicine. I've seen drones delivering my food. I've seen drones delivering my shopping. These days, my wife prefers to do the shopping on the phone because it's easy. It's 24/7. If you don't like it, you can return it. But we see a lot of smartness in the entire world, and things will continue to improve further. So in this backdrop, I then want to take the conversation a little bit further and do an analysis of China and see how China have transformed. So China is interesting because it's a huge country. It's about 1.4 billion people. It has many provinces that have more than in excess of 100 million people. So if we dissect the country itself, I think you're going to find a lot of very, very interesting details. First of all, let's look at the success it has achieved. Since its independence in 1949 until now, over the last 60 years or so, you have seen its rise. Chiew, Mabuhani, one of Singapore's greatest ambassadors to the UN, spoke that China, maybe 50, 60 years ago, when you talk to them, you feel like you're actually sitting beside a cat, a growing cat. But these days, when you talk to China, and you turn around, you sense that you're talking to a tiger. That's how much it has grown, okay? And if you look at some of the key numbers, it's interesting. Look at the digital government. Since 2008 until 2024, over 16 years, the EGDI ranking, which is basically a ranking based on by the World Bank, it has improved from 65 to 35. That means its infrastructure has improved tremendously. Its digital literacy has improved tremendously. Its economy has grown tremendously. If you look at some of these interesting numbers, the ratio of government services is almost 100% at the tier 1 cities, Shenzhen, Beijing, Shanghai, China. But if you roll it out across the entire country, it's probably about 92, 95%. Everything is now digital and the efficiency is there. If you look at the digital economy portion, this is even staggering. It's the number 1 country in terms of digital economy proportion to GDP, 43%. That's what it's using to propel itself forward. And the digital economy itself has created more than 200 million jobs, and the sales and the numbers are rising. I'll talk a little bit about it later. But what is also interesting is that the developments in government, the developments in the economy has actually benefited life, real life. 100% of the schools are connected to the internet. No one is left behind. Whether you're in a city, whether in a rural area, the schools have internet connectivity. That's something, right? When you look at the country that's that big, when you still have rural areas, the number of teachers that are now connected to the online education platform, using the learning management systems, sharing curriculum, using the latest software, almost 20 million. And when you look at the hospitals itself, the national insurance platform, more than 800,000 are connected. So where I'm trying to say is, it's not just about the economy, it's not just about the government, but when you do these two things right, when you create the underlying different infrastructure, you're going to benefit lives. And to me, everything you do, at the end of it all, the question will always be, is it going to benefit each and every one of us? Is it going to benefit citizens? Is it going to bring greater value? And it does. So what exactly have they done? Let's take a look. First of all, they have an overarching framework. One of the reasons why they have this type of framework is because the country is too big. When you have so many provinces, so many cities, and such a large population, you need frameworks. You need standards to drive it. So basically, if I were to dissect, they work on the number 2522. What does 2522 mean? First of all, to digitally transform the country, they base themselves on two fundamental foundations. Number one, my digital infrastructure, my roads, my connectivity, my power, my energy, my water, basic stuff. I need to get that right. I need to transport people. I need to transport information, the digital infrastructure portion. Two, there is so much data. There's so much information in the government agencies, in the businesses. Can I harness the data together, exchange information, and bring greater good? Data has always been there in every country. The only question is, are we able to connect them? Are we able to share them? The ones who does that will propel them forward. So that's the first two foundations. The five refers to the 5 areas where they have done a digital-first strategy: the economy, the government, the society, the culture, and ecology. Basically, they need these 5 pieces, the 5 core pillars, to be digitized, to be digital first. That's the 5. Then they fundamentally work on 2 main things. First, 2 environments. On one hand, they regulate the domestic market, make sure everybody is following the standard, make sure everybody is doing according to what the regulation and policy says. This is important because then data can be shared, data can be exchanged. Imagine everybody is running on different formats. You find it hard to exchange data because the formats are different. You spend so much time cleaning it. Secondly, you look at doing the export of Chinese standards, technologies, thinking to the international market. So it's a 2-pronged strategy. What do I do for my domestic market, and what do I do to position myself in the international market? At the same time, they develop 2 main capabilities that will drive them forward. The first one, I think is of very particular importance, is sovereignty. Sovereignty in a context that it's no longer about physical sovereignty. It's no longer about just protecting my island. It's about digital sovereignty. Where is the data? Governments are no longer satisfied with keeping data on public clouds because the data center, as we know, may not necessarily be in your country. Christ, it could be in a foreign hostile country for all you know. I mean, we're not sure about that. So they are very particular about the sovereignty and a lot of the government data on premise. At the same time, let's be clear about that. Wars are not necessarily just fought on the physical front. Wars and battles are also fought in the virtual space. That's why you also need cyber defense. So if you look at this simple 2522 infrastructure, standards, policies, and then propel themselves forward. So what kind of achievement are we talking about? Some very interesting numbers. 15 years ago, about this 800 million people that is still living in central part of China, they are actually very much in the agriculture business. Because all around the world, we know when you have a large country, it's the coastal cities, the ones that are near to the sea, the ones that have got greater connectivity, you will thrive because of goods flowing, because of trade, etc. The inner part of the country will generally be the one that progresses the slowest. You tend to still very much remain in the agriculture phase. That's the same for China. So in the early 10, 15 years ago, this is what happened. Many of the farmers, they make producers, and once the harvest is done, they will wait for someone to come and buy it on the wholesale basis. The wholesalers generally does not give good price. What the wholesalers do understand is, if you are not going to sell to me, because it's fruits, it's vegetables, how long can it last? You don't have a choice. If you do not want to sell to me, all right. In a couple of days, your fruits, your vegetables, they will be gone. They're perishables, right? So basically, all the power, all the leverage belongs to the big companies, the big commodities. So collectively, which is quite common these days, they press the price. And then as farmers, you have no choice. You sell. They buy, you sell. And you make, if I may use the word, peanuts out of it. So you find it hard to get yourself out of the poverty cycle because you buy, you sell that much, you make that much, and then you continue to just revolve around that circle. How has things changed? China recognized that there is an opportunity to bring greater equality to the entire country. So they focus on 3 infrastructure upgrades. First, power to the rural areas. Secondly, connectivity. Why power? Why connectivity? Because in that 10, 15 years ago, China was undergoing a boom. The e-commerce boom was going on. There was TikTok, there was a lot of the platforms, Alibaba platforms, all the various platforms. With the power, with the connectivity, what the farmers then could do is they no longer have to sell directly to the wholesalers. What they then do was, I have got my harvest, I'm going to log on to my TikTok account, and then I'm going to do a live video streaming. Then what happens is all across China, people who are on TikTok, who are watching the videos, they get to see the farmers selling their produces directly. It's like a direct market sale. They look at the oranges, the apples, the pineapples, they see how it's being cut, they see the juiciness, and then the farmer tells you, click the button, buy, I send it directly to you. No middleman needed. So the entire shift, the transformation began. There were now a lot of entrepreneurs. All the farmers right now started, most of them, going through that channel to sell the products and services. This actually caused the wholesalers to realize that no longer can they have full leverage. They need to make sure that what they're offering is a reasonable, competitive price. Because if they don't, they're not going to get anything to put on the supermarkets. So the whole fundamental shift changed. Power came to the people. What it also happened was, if you're a farmer, you're great at growing, but you may not necessarily be very tech savvy. You may not necessarily know what to do. You may look at the video, the phone, and you may not be very sure what you want to say because you're not so used to it, right? So this gave rise to the influencers. The era of the influencers came in. They are very young people, they are very tech savvy. What they then do is the influencers act as direct marketers for the villagers. In some cases, 1 influencer, 2 influencers, they sell for the entire village. So over 24 hours, he sells apples, oranges, pineapples. He sells for everybody. A single account for a single village, 2 very strong, famous, young, vibrant influencers, they sell everything. And everybody gets along with it. So that's how jobs are created. That's how money flows. That's how transaction flows. That's how power came to the people. Okay? Then the Chinese government realized, I have power now, I have connectivity now. This is thriving, but what's the problem right now? my friend, is logistics. Because the problem about getting the fruits, the vegetables, the perishables to the people, that problem still remains. Because if you cannot get and bring those things out fast, it's going to be spoiled. So the infrastructure upgrade came in. So right now, it's very clear. You need the power, you need the connectivity, you need the roads. The logistics came in, and it thrived. So these days, I can watch a video, look at the farmers, I see the mangoes and watermelons, I really like it, I put an order. Chances are between 24 to 36 hours, it will reach my house. That's how fast it is. That has transformed the entire Chinese economy. And if you look at that, 800 million people in the central part who are predominantly farmers have profited from it. Their lives are better now. They're making more money. They are tech savvy. And they're happy using the digital payments, the WeChat payments, the Alibaba payments, because thring, money is coming in. Thring, money is coming in. The goods are going out. I tried the watermelon. I think it's sweet. I think it's nice. I will buy again. And I know where it comes from. If I go to the supermarket, I buy the orange and apples. I like it. I love it. 2 days later, I come and buy it again. I'm not sure where it comes from. Because I know the supermarket sources from everywhere. Their job is to make sure that there's enough stock. But if I do direct marketing, I'm going back to the same farmer again. Assuming he did well, the whole harvest was good, I'm going to get quite close quality again. So this is how things have changed, okay? So you see the power of the digital economy, and I think there is absolutely great opportunity for Africa in some ways to look at some of these developments and see how can I customize it, how can I adapt it for our greater good itself, how can I then help the people. At the same time, as the economy changed, what the government did with the connectivity, with the infrastructure, they also started single portals, they started doing enhancing data exchange, and then what they are then able to do is they allow the people to access the government services using single portals, using phones, using applications. So this is an example of a project that we have done with the Guangdong provincial government. Guangdong has about 110 million people, all using the applications to access the government services. What the various ministries and MDAs did was basically they migrated the data to a central data center, to a central cloud. They developed the applications on that single portal, and then through a single authentication of the digital ID, the citizens go to the portal, do their services, and then make any form of payment they need because the digital payment is embedded within. So what you have seen is with the digital infrastructure upgrade, with connectivity, with power, with roads, everything, people's lives are improved, government are delivering better services, business are thriving, it's all good. But this is not the end. It's also about looking at the next opportunity, the next evolution. And this is where AI comes in. And if you look on the screen itself, China has also aggressively been developing and putting out what is known as AI computing centers, AI data centers, supercomputers. Why? Because it recognized that the next revolution that's going to happen is that now that I have my beautiful digital infrastructure, I have a digital government, I have digital economy, I have digital society, everybody is tech savvy, what next? Let's introduce AI. And let's introduce AI to transform the industries further. So you see across the country, these numbers are about 2023 numbers. They have built 14 AI computing centers. They are thinking of launching more. The numbers keeps growing. So what they are essentially doing is that they are building what is known as provincial AI computing capabilities, and they are aggregating the demand needed across government agencies and enterprises. It's expensive to build an AI computing center. I don't think any enterprise or most enterprise can afford to do it. And the irony is that even if you could afford it, do you really need that huge capacity? Because there's a minimum, right? So what if that makes sense is someone builds it, aggregates the demand, put in the infrastructure investment, and then lease the services at a reasonable price because you're not making money to everybody. So what you're saying is that most, if not all, of the AI computing center China's are running at max capacity. It's working day and night. The infrastructure, the return on investment is very, very high. And they're running day and night with at maximum capacity because governments are using it. Schools are using it. Universities are using it. More importantly, the big industries, the companies are using it. That's what I mean by great value. Okay? So with that as a backdrop, then what they then do is they started putting in many interesting applications. Smart classrooms, smart clinics, smart water management, smart cities, fraud detection in tax. In public safety, you see the use of video, use of drones, the ability to use AI to help in court sentencing. All this are possible because they have that fundamental AI national capability. Everybody is sharing and using their infrastructure. And it is, again, as you can see, the applications are designed to benefit lives. I think that is very important. If we always think AI is about something futuristic, something nice to have to talk about, but you don't use it to benefit lives, to me, it's pointless. So you see the development itself. So what are some of the lessons learned? I just want to summarize from what you have heard about the Chinese story. One, your planning needs to be continuous, it needs to be future-oriented, and more importantly, holistic. You can't think as individual agencies, as individual departments anymore. You need to think carefully as a country. What do we do? What do you do? What do I do? What does he do? How can what each of us do with our budgets somehow or other bring us one step closer to a united nation? How do I share the data? How do I make sure that the formats are the same? How do I exchange the data? Secondly, as a government, you need to think about your fiscal policies and the support policies. How do I make sure that it's an environment for the business to thrive, for the foreign direct investments to want to come in? What are some of the regulations? Can it be clear? Can it be transparent? Can it be easy to understand? And finally, prioritize and sustain. For what it's worth, since I'm sharing from a very open perspective, I think in many African countries, the challenge is here. It's the sustained investment part. I've been in Huawei for about 10 years now, as I've said earlier. I've done many projects across Africa. What I see is that the governments have the desire. They do phase one. Beautiful, nice. But then, where's phase two? Where's phase three? Where's phase four? Phase two, phase three, phase four will be there on paper. It may be in some cabinet, in someone's office. It will be talked about. But where is the implementation? Why do I think this is important? Because nothing big and worthy to be done gets done in one phase. Especially for a country that big, with so many people. You need to do it over multiple phases. And the phases somehow needs to be connected together. China thrived over the last 40, 50 years because each of their 5-year planning is always built upon the previous one. There is continuity. Okay? So, let's bring the discussion back to Africa itself. So this is the core pillars of the digital economy. I think I'm not going to spend too much time on it. All of us are familiar. You need the robust infrastructure. You need the ecosystem. You need the players. You need the data as a production multiplier, exchange. You need the regulation and cybersecurity, and you need the talents. What's interesting is, I personally believe Africa is well placed to capitalize on this. Why? Let's look at it from a few perspectives. I think over the past decade, over the past 10, 20 years, we have seen things stabilizing across Africa. Some of the African countries are now thriving. They have a stable government. I put quite a number of them. There are peaceful transitions. Whether I'm from the government, ruling government, or I'm from the opposition, there is a recognition It's not about power. It's about bringing good. It's about improving people's life. So we see that moving along and it's getting better. What we're also seeing is that the economy of the countries are growing, and more importantly, as I've said, people are very young. And they like to use digital, they like to use all the technologies, they can do it. And the infrastructure, in many ways, what we have seen is over the last 10 years has improved. And finally, penetration is better. So Africa is well placed. So I just want to close off by two key things. Invest in the talent. African countries, Ghana, invest in the talent. Make sure you have a national ICT talent cultivation system. Looking at how to develop the talent, plan, cultivate, and certify them. And more importantly, do not forget, the talent we are talking about is not just about the youth. It's about the people in this room, because you're going to be users. It's about the older people as well, because society needs to learn about digital transformation. So some critical factors to think about. Again, I won't go so much into details. We'll be happy to share the slides. Think about the policy. Think about how do I grow my industry and ecosystem. Because once you move forward, once you transform, and once you bring in AI, unless the local Ghana ecosystem catch up, you will always be dependent on external people, external talent, external companies. The profits, the values that you create, a large part of it may still flow outside. So it's important to recognize that. Think about the applications. Think about what is going to be done immediately that will benefit the greater mass so that you can bring them along. Think about your models. Think about how to share data. And finally, do not forget, without the infrastructure, everything is air. Everything is air. It's just theory. Okay? So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope it's been wonderful. I hope it's been interesting. And I look forward to seeing Africa and Ghana's growth. Thank you.
The global energy transition drives a surge in demand for mineral resources, facing ever-growing electricity costs. Mining companies need to accelerate their low-carbon transformation. However, numerous challenges hinder the low-carbon transformation. Complex mining processes involve many surge loads and continuous loads. Multiple energy sources are difficult and costly to coordinate, causing heavy pollution. A patchwork solution is delivered by multiple vendors and may not ensure stable microgrid operation. Based on its rich experience in delivering significant microgrid projects, Huawei Digital Power has developed a one-matches-all solution that covers smart design, simulation design, delivery instructions. It provides hierarchical control to strike a balance between stability and cost-effectiveness, facilitating the low-carbon transformation of mining companies. Smart design for PV and ESS based on product advantages ensures optimal revenue. Loan models can be set, and customers' real needs are sufficiently considered in scheme design. A power supply solution with an appropriate configuration ratio can be tailored based on product advantages and energy needs. An optimal scheme can be produced through diverse revenue comparison and smart optimization. Thanks to Huawei's product adaptability, an optimal configuration can be generated by one click. A report can be generated in 2 minutes. Huawei has built a microgrid simulation platform based on smart design report and 6 core grid forming technologies to ensure stable microgrid operation. To simulate the actual operation scenario of a microgrid system, the platform allows users to create a simplified topology, set up a simulation model, perform real-time simulation tasks such as startup of surge loads and continuous loads, on-off-grid switching, and short-circuit fault testing. To evaluate the rationality of the scheme and control policy as well as the system stability, and propose optimization suggestions. Huawei has delivered more than 1,500 models to over 60 globally regions. Over the past 3 years, Huawei has worked with consulting firms to complete more than 1,600 simulation tests for the Red Sea project and has conducted systematic evaluations on the safety and stability of the world's first utility-scale microgrid. Huawei Smart Mine microgrid solution streamlines the secondary system for higher performance. Prefabrication and digitalization halve the delivery period. Wizard-based configuration increases the system setup speed by 80%. A gigawatt-hour level power plant can be delivered in just 1 month. Our solution has been proved to be economical and reliable in numerous regions around the world. The innovation power purchase model for mining in Congo reduces electricity costs by 50% and significantly extends the power supply duration. The microgrid has been running reliably in the Red Sea destination for more than 18 months and has delivered over 1 billion kilowatt-hour of green power. Huawei Smart Microgrid Solution. Safe, reliable, and economical green power supply to light up the world.